He's been here many times before, and we've always enjoyed his time with us. And I'm interested in the title that he has for his talk this morning, Last Day Deceptions. Brother Lindfors?
They conducted an experiment. They took a young little sapling and they put some dirt in a box and they weighed the dirt in the box. And they set it out there for a few years and they took it out again. It had gained 52 pounds. And then they weighed the dirt in the box. It had lost 2 to 3 ounces. Where did the wood come from? From the air. Some is moisture, some is wood, becomes carbon dioxide becomes wood when it's finally turned into glucose and starch. Now listen. If you ask an atheist, where did the tree come from? Now this tree came from a seed. And where did the seed come from? From the tree. And where did the tree come from? From the seed. Where this ring around the rosy. From the seed to tree, to seed to tree. Now, does the seed come without a tree? No, it didn't evolve from some kind of a mushroom. God created the first tree, who produced seeds, and then seed produces tree, and tree produces seeds. Okay? The first, last deception I want to talk about is evolution. Why did the devil bring in evolution? What is the Sabbath memorial of? Sabbath is a memorial of creation. So in order to bring in evolution, the devil had to sidetrack the so-called Christians to forget that there was a creation so he could bring in evolution. As long as there was a Sabbath, there was a God created, he could not bring in evolution. So the devil had to first take people away from the Sabbath to do something else so he could bring in evolutionistic theory. Now in the last days it's very, very rampant. Even among Christians, evolution is rampant. The Roman Catholic teaches God created the first protoplasm, and from there it evolved. So it's a theistic evolution. God created the protoplasm, from there it evolved. I'd like to know how we got the seed and the tree and so forth. And it's in most of the educational institutions. We were pastoring over in Whidbey Island, Oak Harbor, San Juan Islands. Walla Walla College Biological Station is there. And when we come to a new pastorate, we don't do much outside visiting until we had one family each Sabbath comes to our home for Sabbath lunch to get acquainted. And one Sabbath here came this man who's a PhD, head of the biological station at Anacortes. And after lunch we got to talking and I said something like this, and in your profession you must meet quite a few evolutionists. How do you deal with them? He said, I am one. I said, no, you're not. Yes, I am. That's the only way to go, brother. I couldn't believe my ears. We talked for quite a while, but he was and is an evolutionist. How could it be a Christian to be an evolutionist? You see how smart the devil is? To get people sidetracked so they lose the basics. They'll lose the basics. Sabbath is a memorial of creation. Why do people go to church on Sunday? What's Sunday memorial of? They say memorial of resurrection. What's the Bible memorial of resurrection? Death, burial, and resurrection is in what? Baptism. See, the devil takes things and sidetrack, and after a while, he gets people in and they think it's the truth when it's a falsehood. By the way, if someone asks you, why do you go to church on Saturday for? What do you say? Don't tell them the Ten Commandments says so. I say, I go to church on the Sabbath because Jesus went to church on Sabbath. Is that safe? I go to church because Jesus went to church. He said, I set you an example that you should do as I have done. Follow me. So when I go to church on the Sabbath day, I'm following Jesus' footsteps. Now, since you're going to church on Sunday, when you come to the judgment and God asks you, why do you go to church on Sunday for? What are you going to say? Huh? When I come to the judgment, if God asks me why I go to church on Sabbath for, I say I go to church because Jesus did. He said, I set you an example, follow me. I follow Jesus to go to church. Now, when a Sunday keeper asks you why you go to church on Saturday for, you tell them you're following in Jesus' footsteps. You're doing what he did. Then ask them, when you come to the judgment and God asks you, why do you go to church on Sunday for? What are you going to say? Watch the look on their face. Who is it safer to follow? Jesus or some man-made philosophies? The big thing with Protestants is Sabbath Sunday issue. The big thing with Roman Catholics is state of the dead. Immortality of the soul and all that stuff, apostate Protestantism, Catholics teach. I was holding evangelistic meetings in Yonkala many years ago. A Catholic lady came every night. In the night we talked about what happens when you die. At the end of the meeting, I'm sitting in the foyer and she comes by, she looks at me for a while. I wonder what she's looking at me for. Then she lifted up her fist. Uh-oh. Then she said, I got it! What do you mean? Her mother was no longer in purgatory. And she forgot to pray about mother once in a while and say novenas, and my mother must think I'm an ungrateful daughter. I forgot she's suffering in purgatory. Listen, when a Roman Catholic finds out what happens when you die, it's just like a bomb. Freedom sets in. And when you have requiem masses, $1,500, $2,000, whatever they are nowadays, for the dead, and then the priest says, we are not so sure it was applied to the right person. You want to do it again? One of the largest incomes in the Roman Catholic Church is the state of the dead and the purgatory. The truth shall set you free. And like the lady said, I got it. You see how the devil works around? Instead of bringing joy and peace and just wonderful things. Oh, my mother, my little baby who died in the I must remember to say novenas. And you see what the devil has done? The truth shall set you free. Amen. Okay. What about the false second coming? Rapture and all that stuff. The truth is, when Jesus comes, what's going to happen? The wicked will die, the righteous will rise up. But what does the false Protestantism teach? There's a secret rapture. Oh my, oh my. It's just one big mess. One big mess. Truth is so simple. When Jesus comes, he's not going to hang up in the earth and we're going to rapture up to meet him. Or is that what we're going to do? Or is he going to walk here and make all kinds of miracles and healing the sick? The truth is we are going to meet him in the air, right? When you see Jesus walking on the earth, you know it's not the right kind of a Jesus. There are some genuine miracles, Sister White says. There be genuine healings done by evil entities. Miraculous healings by evil entities. Real healings. I got to tell you one story. Elder Falkenberg and McFarlane, who started the 5-day plan, they were in England, bringing it in there, and the day they came, they found out there's going to be one of the largest miracle healings in England. One of the Episcopal priests had become a healer. A great, huge auditorium had been rented, and they decided they're going to see what just happens. So they stand outside the auditorium and waiting till people are walking by. And here came a man walking, limping. They stepped beside him and said, "Would you mind if I asked you some questions?" "No, that's okay." "Where are you going?" "I'm going to get healed." "What was your problem?" And he told him how it happened. And "Would you mind if we accompany you and see what happens?" "That's okay." Well, in due time, he walked up to the rostrum, limped up, and he got healed, walked down just fine. Then, Falkenberg and McFarland, after they came down, they said, "Could we ask you a few more questions?" "Yes." "What hospital did you go to, had the surgeries done when you broke your legs and so forth?" He told them. "Would you mind if we took you to the same hospital, had some x-rays made?" "I'd be glad to." So they get to the hospital, pull out the old charts, show the damage. They took another x-ray. Perfect condition. Sister White says there will be undeniable miracles performed in the last day by evil entities. Undeniable miracles. The big question is, what do they teach? It's not what they do. What do they teach? I've seen an undeniable miracle. There was a Christian in India. Here is a gully man, one of those performs miracles. Very honored and revered individual. I've seen it done on a little dirt street and also a marble floor in a hotel. He's got a little can, good-sized can, some dirt. He pours it on the ground or on the floor, and he takes out a mango seed. I got one anyway, a mango seed. A box of mango seed. You pick out the mango seed you want, and you put it in that pile of dirt. Then he covers it up, put a few drops of water on it, take his kerchief off, puts it on top of the pile of thing, then he goes into some kind of, whatever it is, chanting. Then he starts lifting up that that back the blanket a little bit at a time as he's chanting and chanting and chanting and chanting. And that's right. There's a mango bush growing there. About 2.5, 3 feet tall. You can take leaves off for souvenir. Undeniable miracles by the evil entities. Satan can increase or speed up or slow down natural processes, but he cannot create. The big thing today is miracle healings. Millions of people are falling into that trap. It's not the question what the miracles they do. What do they teach? That's the question. If they perform miracles but they don't have the correct biblical teaching, who's behind it? The evil ones. Evil one. Okay. Speaking in tongues. Every evangelistic crusade we've been in, we always get tongue speakers come who wants to get us to speak in tongues. And sometimes they sit in a group, sometimes 25, 30 in some auditorium, sit together, they're praying all the evening long that we get the tongues. And I research quite a bit because we run into them all the time. What does Sister White say about speaking in tongues? Satan's electrical currents. When some of these tongue speakers say, "Oh, Pastor, if I get you to speak in tongues once, just once, you'd feel that wonderful, exhilarating feeling and you will want to do it ever after." It's just a wonderful feeling that goes through your whole body. Nothing about Bible, it's about feelings. Now there are the true tongues and the false tongues. One of my friends, he was a pastor, he grew up in China. His parents were missionaries in China, so he spoke Chinese. And they were going to Pacific Union College, studying to the ministry, and when it came to comparable religions, they talked about teaching about what the different religions teach, and it came to tongues. Some of the students got a bright idea. They're going to go to one of these tongue-speaking meetings, and after they got really riled up and going, this man would stand up and tell them in Chinese they should not speak in tongues. In Chinese. He did that. Someone stood up and gave an interpretation, the wonderful testimony he gave about Jesus Christ and so forth. Why, everybody, come back next week, come back next week. But there was an old retired man who understood Chinese in the congregation. He told them what he had actually said. He wasn't praising God. He was telling us not to speak in tongues. You see, these translators, they are speaking what the devil puts in their mind, because the electrical current goes through, they feel so good, always praising the Lord, you know. Christianity Today, many years ago, ran a survey. They audio taped, 40, 50 some people speaking in tongues. And then they got, one by one, they got these interpreters, by themselves. And they played the audio tape for them, and then they interpreted. When they got through, there were no two similar interpretations from one tape. 40-some people listened to the tape and interpreted what they said. There were no two identical interpretations. Now what's going on? You see, it has nothing to do with truth. It's Satan's sidetracking, involving people so they don't get involved with the true gospel message. Now there are true gift of tongues, no question about it. Elder Behrmann was a young man, quite a few years ago now. He went to Africa with the main purpose to learn the Luo tongue, one of the most difficult ones, so he could translate the Bible studies and things into local languages. He was there for a whole year. He could not catch on to Luo. No matter what he tried, it's a very difficult language, from the clicking sounds. So they decided they're going to send him back home because they couldn't get it. The last night in Africa, he's leaving tomorrow morning. He decided he's going to stay up all night long, pray and seek to the Lord, because he didn't understand. He knew God sent him to Africa. Why does he have to go back home? He knew why. Early morning, he looks out through the window. Here comes a native down the trail. So he stepped out and invited him in for breakfast. The native stood looking at him. Don't move. Please come in and have breakfast with me, he said. He doesn't move, just looks at him. He asked the third time, please come in and have breakfast with me. The native said, Master, when did you learn to speak a language? He spoke perfect Luo. He didn't go home. Sister White says, when you get the gift of tongues, you will speak with the accent of a native born, and it stays with you for the rest of your life. They are real tongues. And when it comes, you speak with the accent of a native born, as if you're born with, and it stays with you the rest of the life. So he translated all kinds of Bible studies and so forth. Now this gift of tongues, there's also gift of hearing. Otto Hauschild was baptized same time I was, December 15, 1951 in Fitchburg, Massachusetts. He was from Germany. Sometime later, his mother came to visit, which spoke only German. And one evening there was going to be some meeting at the church, and his mother wouldn't understand anything, but there'd be some music and some singing. She'd like that. And so he took his mother with him. At the end of the service, he's going out, shaking hands with the preacher, and she's talking in German, good Sprache, all the, he's just exuberantly praising the Lord for the wonderful message he gave. Otto says, Mother, you didn't understand a word he said. He speaks English. No, he speaks Deutsch. She heard everything in German. She heard everything in German. He spoke in English. There is gift of healing. There is gift of speaking. But the big question is, how can you determine whether it's true or not? What do they teach? What did the Episcopal priest in England teach the people when it came to state of the dead, Sabbath Sunday? It's not what they do, whether it be Adventist or not. The question is, what do they teach? If they do not teach the Bible, true Bible, no matter what miracles, no matter what exuberant electrical current goes through your body, you just want to... There is true gifts of healing, true healings too. And you don't have to have a gift because you don't heal. God does. We pastored in Tillamook in her 60s. There was a lady, she wasn't that old, but she was getting down. She could hardly walk, shaking. And one day her son, they had a woodworking shop in the back of the yard. He called us as pastor. My mother wanted to be anointed. Okay, I'll come over. No, she wants to come to church. Well, she doesn't. Well, I'll help her get in. Well, about 11 o'clock, a little bit before, one morning he leads her into the church. She sits down in the front pew. We sit for a minute and then say, before we begin this procedure, if there is anyone here who does not believe that God will heal our sister, would you leave now? The son got up and walked out, sat down in the foyer. They left me and the mother. So we had the anointing service, and I led her back out to the foyer, and he took her and put her in the car and drove home. I know 2:30, 3 o'clock that afternoon, I get a phone call. He says, Pastor, I thought you want to know. My mom just went back to work. God does heal. There are many false healings. People don't heal. God does the healing when He chooses to. Now, Bible says there are going to be many false prophets. By the way, before we leave the tongues, I have a list here. They were tongue speaking in a pre-Christian area. In AD 33 at Pentecost, they were tongue speaking. In AD 55 in Corinth, there was tongue speaking. In 156 AD Montanus, by the way, every time there is a movement or last day events, tongues have come into being to sidetrack. 156 BC Montanus and Tertullian began teaching the end time, tongues came in. Franciscan Reformatory, same thing, tongues came in. 1500 AD Anabaptists called Schwemmers, teaching the second coming of Jesus, tongues came in. 1685 Commissars, 1790 Quakers, 1800 Irvingites, 1850, that's right, early Seventh-day Adventists got infected by it. 1850s, early Adventists, that they would say any time there is a movement of the last day events, second coming of Jesus, tongues comes in. And 1870, 1880 Pentecostals came in. Now wait a minute. They're going to be false prophets clustering around true prophets. 1805 to 1844, Joseph Smith. 1821 to 1910, Mary Baker Eddy, Christian Scientist. 1805 to 1915, Ellen White. 1836 to 1896, Margaret Fox, spiritualists. All in New England and upstate New York. Sister, any time a true one comes along in the last day things, that they will raise up false ones around to sidetrack. And you see how the devil is working? Yes. What does Joseph Smith teach and Margaret Fox and all these others? It's not what they do, it's not what the tongues and miracles. What do you teach? That's the question. That will tell you whether they're true or not. Don't need to have miracles in order to teach the truth. Anybody can teach the truth. You don't need to be a miracle. Undeniable miracles. Well, I was pastoring in Falls City, just east of Seattle. Neighboring town, Snoqualmie, we had was a Nazarene church. The pastor and I got to be very, very good friends. And when he began asking, what do Adventists do when a pastor from another denomination becomes an Adventist? And I thought, well, what's he asking those questions for? And I began to have Bible study with some of his core members of the church. And I guess he didn't like that. So there were a couple who was, I would say, the base for the Nazarene church in that city. And they were having Bible studies week after week. They're coming along real good. One day I got a phone call and said, well, Pastor, don't come to our house anymore. I said, why not? Well, a Nazarene pastor was here last night, and he showed us that Sister White is not a Christian. He what? He showed us Sister White is not a Christian. What proof did he use? It's the Desire of the Ages. What? Well, I was flabbergasted. Do you know what part of the Desire of the Ages? The first chapter, they said. I said, well, it's your decision, so I won't come. Then I picked up the book and I read the first chapter of Desire of the Ages. There is nothing in there that could prove Sister White said. Bingo! Then hit me. I called him back and said, just for good old friends' times, well, would you mind come just one more time and I won't bother you again. Okay, come on. Took the Desire of Ages with me. Slowly I read this first chapter of Desire of Ages. Every once in a while I heard, huh? 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 And I closed the book and said, well, I fulfilled what I've said to do, I'll leave. Oh, no, don't leave now. What had the pastor done? He was reading a sentence and he did not finish to put another part of another sentence in. See what I mean? He's reading a sentence, then he cut it off and put something else in. He's reading from the first chapter of Desire of Ages, proving that Sister White was not a Christian. The question is, what do you teach? I baptized those people. But if I had not gone and investigated for myself what Sister White said in the first chapter of Desire of Ages, I would have lost them. Remember now, there are going to be false prophets, all kinds of false prophets. The question is, what do they teach? And some good Seventh-day Adventists will fall prey to some of these things. One last story and I quit. You old-timers remember Elder Halliwell on Amazon River, right? Well, the time came, he was getting old and he had to retire. A young medical doctor came to go on the launches, those medical launches at Amazon River. A young medical doctor had two young girls. Sometime later, for some reason or another, there was an accident. The two girls were killed. Blow, my. It really wrecked them. One day, a man came and said, I have a message for you. Your two daughters want you to come to a meeting next Tuesday night at 7 o'clock. Now, he's a Seventh-day Adventist physician. He knows what happens when you die. But he missed those girls. He just wondered, well, what would they look like? I know it's not true, but I think I'll go and just see what they look like. He went. Partway into the meeting, came to the two girls tripping down the hallway. Sit down and slept, put their arms around his shoulder, or his neck, one on each knee. He looked at them, felt them. Everything was their girls, his girls. So he went home. Next week. He knew the truth, but it was so wonderful to hug those girls again. Finally, the nervous breakdown that sent him home. You see, don't try to investigate too closely physiologically things that are like that, because sometimes your emotions, you just want to, if you take one step in the wrong direction, it prepares you for the next step in the wrong direction. Do not move. You know what is true. This is the truth. Spirit of prophecy is truth. If they don't speak according to that, it is because there's what? No light in them. That doctor, he was a good doctor. He let his emotions run away. Listen, take the name of Jesus. You take him with you, and you will find the right truth.